Hey, I'm Courtney with a K, and I'm going to talk to you guys about self-esteem. We all know that I struggle with feeling unworthy, inadequate, and I have a lot of self-doubt sometimes. I just lack confidence. And I think I didn't become aware that that's what it was, or I didn't name it until like my early 20s when I was in college. And that's when I realized, like, okay, so this is why I feel this way, or this is where it's coming from. First and foremost, the first thing that you need to do when you're dealing with your self-esteem in order to build it or increase your self-esteem, that would be a better word. In order to increase your self-esteem, the first thing that you have to admit to yourself is that you have low self-esteem. You have to admit that you don't value yourself. You have to admit that you have a very negative opinion of yourself. You're very critical. You have to acknowledge it. You have to be aware. A good friend of mine has always told me that in order to conquer something, you must confront it. And in the way that she would say, you can't conquer what you don't confront. You're not going to be able to overcome these negative self-thoughts, this negative perception of yourself, if you're not willing to admit that you have it. And so I think that self-awareness plays a huge role in the way that you see yourself. I don't believe anyone is born with low self-esteem. I know that my life experience is what has influenced greatly my self-esteem. Now, people would say, how can external forces, how can things outside of you determine how you see you? But I mean, they do have an effect on you. The largest effect comes from, your parenting and how you were raised, your childhood. It has an extreme effect on how you see yourself. I don't really recall like my parents, really affirming me. I think my parents thought that since I was quiet and I was observant and that I was pretty much a content, quiet child, that I didn't really need that. But then again, I can't really speak for my parents, and this is not me bashing my parents. I love my parents. I love my parents to death, but I do know that the way that they parented me, I can acknowledge, and they can acknowledge as well, that the way that I was raised and the way that I was parented has a huge effect on the way that I see myself. If you have a very positive attachment with your parents, then you have that secure attachment. You end up being an average confident person. Whereas if you don't have that, if your parental figures and you have a kind of like an unhealthy attachment style, then more often than not, you end up, with a distorted view of yourself. I would say it's just distorted or whatnot, and we just need to change how we see ourselves. That's all we have to do. If we change the distortion, if we change it and we make it a more accurate picture, then hopefully we all will be able to see ourselves the way that we need to see ourselves. We want to make sure that we are self-aware. We want to make sure that we know why we feel these negative feelings about ourselves. Honestly, most of it comes from external forces, like what people said about me and things like that. The more that you hear something, the more that you believe it. I know that in the Bible, it tells us that faith comes by hearing. And if you hear something often enough, you begin to believe it about yourself. And so if you're constantly hearing negative things about yourself, if you're being bullied and things like that, you'll start to believe those negative voices. And sooner or later, those negative external voices will become your inner voice. And then that it just kind of goes downhill from there. The next way that I find myself kind of growing in my self-esteem is, so like once I start with awareness and I'm aware that this is what I'm dealing with, I move to a place of I want to say that I moved to a place of accepting myself. I had to accept that I am who I am. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, I was born this way. This is my personality. This is who I am. These are the cards that I've been dealt. Like, that's it. I had to accept that. And I had to accept myself for me, which was challenging. It is not as easy as it sounds. It's extremely difficult. And I still have to accept myself. What helps me accept me is the fact that I know and I believe with all of my heart that Jesus has accepted me, right? If I'm all broken and I've done things and all of this stuff, and which I have, and in spite of all the things that I've done and in spite of all the things that I've said, that he still accepts me for who I am, then who am I to not accept me? I mean, that's how I had to make it work in my head so that I could accept myself. Like, I have to accept myself. So you move from awareness and you go to a place of accepting yourself. And then once you get to that place where you accept yourself, then you affirm yourself, right? I have to affirm myself. I have to affirm myself all the time. It just so happens that my love language is words of affirmation. So, and I think that comes from the fact that there was a lack of encouragement in my home. Now, my parents weren't the type of parents that were, let me just throw that out there. They weren't the type of parents that like said negative and mean things to me, but my parents did not encourage me either. So I didn't often hear, you're pretty or you're smart, or, I didn't hear the things that I feel like I should have heard when I was younger. Or the encouragement and the support that you should get in a healthy, loving environment. I didn't receive that. And so because of that, the lack of the encouragement and the support, I have an extreme need for it now as an adult because I didn't get it when I was younger. Now I'm in the place of affirming myself, where I have to tell myself that I am beautiful, and I have to tell myself that I am capable, and I have to tell myself that I am amazing, or whatever it is that I need at that particular moment. I have to affirm myself. So in the beginning, when I first learned about my self-esteem, it was hard for me to tell myself, like, to look in the mirror and say, you are beautiful and you are what you call, because I'm not used to it. So it was very hard for me to accept that, even coming from myself. So what I had to do was I had to focus on what God says about me. I couldn't trust myself at that time. I didn't trust myself. And so because of that, I had to depend on who I do trust. I had to depend on who I do believe. And so I just went to God's word, and in God's word, he tells me that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And he tells me that I'm special and I'm valuable, and that he loves me with an everlasting love. And it is that, hearing that and studying the word and meditating on that word and reciting that word over and over and hearing it over and over is what helped me learn that this is who I am. So, I mean, like, God is not man, so God doesn't lie. So he's not lying to me. Like, this is who, like, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am special. I am valuable. I am loved. I'm accepted. And so hearing that and saying that and hearing it and seeing it and reading it in the word, that's what helped me get to a place where I could accept it a little bit. And then once I accepted it from him, then I could accept it from myself. And so then I started and I began to affirm myself. I would write down affirmations and put them on my mirror. Like, I use a dry erase marker and write things that I would read to myself in the morning. Or I put them on note cards and I tape them up, different things that I needed to affirm in myself. And so I even have a voice memo on my phone that I have recorded different affirmations to myself to build me up, because I need to hear it. It's so important to hear it from me, And so making sure that you move from a place of acceptance to where you start to affirm yourself, affirming me has truly worked to help me. I also read where a hack where you can get a plant, if you are into plants, and name the plant your name. And every time that you water and maintain your plant, you would speak affirmations, or you would speak good to your plant. but you name the plant after yourself. And so it's like you're really speaking to the plant, but you're really speaking to yourself. And so since I'm not really a plant person, I just follow Auntie Tabitha Brown's example, and I named my hair. and I named my hair Courtney, which I just don't refer to my hair as Courtney, but that's my hair's name. My hair's name is Courtney, and every wash day, I not only give my hair TLC, but I speak to myself when I'm in the shower and I'm washing. I speak to myself and I say, you know, that you're beautiful and that you're strong and you're resilient and you bounce back, and you know, you fall down, but you get back up, and you try again, and you know, and I just tell myself that, and I tell myself things while I'm washing my hair, and I'm talking to my hair, but I'm really talking to myself. So it works. So you have to find what works for you. Either the note cards, writing on your mirror, or reciting them on a voice recording and playing them back when you're in your car or at the gym. You have to find out what works for you, but you need to make sure that you do affirm yourself as often as you can. And then lastly, I would say, and I don't say this with the least, this is probably the most important thing that helps me. This is probably the most important one that helps me with my self-esteem, and that is forgiving myself. When I was broken, and I still am, and I still am. My brokenness is in a different way now, but I have different struggles and different things. But right now, you know, when it comes to my self-esteem, I feel like I've kind of got to a place where I still struggle with it, but it doesn't rock me as much. Now I have my moments, I still have my moments, but it doesn't, I guess, get me all out of sorts like it used to, you know, because self-esteem, just on a side note, self-esteem really isn't a mental health issue, but your self-esteem and how you view yourself can lead to depression if you allow it, if it gets that far. If you obsess over it, it can get to a place where you're just down in the dumps and you're depressed and you can't function, or you can't, you know, and so it can become a bad thing. It can affect your self-esteem, and how you view yourself can affect your mental health. I needed to forgive myself. I needed to understand that, Courtney, I'm sorry, Courtney, for the choices that I made when I was broken. I have to say I'm sorry for the decisions, the things that I allowed, the way that I was treated, the fact that I allowed myself to be treated that way. You know, now hindsight is 2020, looking back, it's like, wow, like if I would have been more confident, if only I would have loved myself a little bit more, if only I would have valued myself, I would not have put up with some of the things that I put up with. And so you deal with the sense of guilt. It's like once you start to build yourself back up, you start becoming aware, and you look back and you're like, why did you deal with that? And it's in those moments that you have to forgive yourself, and you have to extend the mercy that we extend so freely to other people. You have to extend that mercy to yourself. And now you know better. Once you knew better, your behavior changed, you know? And so I have to remind myself of that. Like, now that I know better, I respond in a different way. And then I didn't know. So I can't really hold that against me. And so I think that's the most important thing, y'all. You gotta forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself. All right? Because, you know, I think that we all have made decisions and choices out of brokenness. We've made decisions and choices that we probably would not make now, of course, but we did it, and it's done. And there's no reason to guilt yourself and continue to hold that over your head when Jesus has already forgiven you for it. Just let it go. At this point, it's just time to let it go. And then on top of letting it go, forgive yourself. Please forgive yourself so that you can move on, so that you can get to a place where you can start repairing the relationship with yourself, right? Self-esteem is about having a healthy relationship with yourself. And if you don't forgive yourself, how are you going to repair that bond with yourself? Like, how are you going to repair it? So it's so important that you forgive. Make sure that you are self-aware. And if you're going to be self-aware and you're going to be listing out all the things that you do wrong, make sure that you also make a list of the things that you do well. All right? You want to move from self-awareness to acceptance, and make sure that you accept yourself. God made you who you are for a reason. You are who you are for a reason. Okay? The comparison is the thief of all joy. Do not compare yourself to other people. Do not compare your gifts to what other people's gifts are. Everyone serves a certain purpose. You serve a certain purpose. Be thankful for the gifts and what you have. Focus on what you have and not what you lack. Okay, so go ahead and just accept yourself. And then when you move from accepting yourself, you'll feel yourself more able and more open to affirming yourself. And affirming yourself and speaking life over yourself is what really is going to give you that increase that you need in your self-esteem. And then lastly, forgive yourself. Make sure that you have that honest conversation with yourself, whether it is out loud or whether it is through journaling. Write out the mistakes if you need to and burn it. Do whatever you need to do so that you can get that guilt and that shame off of you when it comes to the mistakes that you made, what you tolerated, what you put up with. You didn't know any better then, so don't hold that against yourself. And find that mercy. Find that mercy that we just so freely give to other people. We forgive other people so quickly, but we're so hard and so hard on ourselves. Forgive yourself with that same mercy. Extend that to you. And I hope that will help you boost, and I hope that you will start to see a change in your perspective and your perception of you. I pray that your value just continues to grow up and increase as you do those things. Accept yourself, affirm yourself, forgive yourself. Accept yourself, affirm yourself, forgive yourself. Accept yourself, affirm yourself, forgive yourself. I just pray that it just continues to increase as you do those things. And I appreciate all of you taking the moment to go to self-esteem with me. I pray that I hope I wasn't all over the place, because I can be. So, but your self-esteem is so important because it's your relationship with you. So you have to value yourself, and you have to know that you are who you are. You have purpose, you have destiny. There is great things inside of you. You're going to do great things. You have to just know that. You have to know that you know that you know, like you know that you know that you know, right? So you just got to. So I just hope that this is encouraging. I hope that it builds you up. I hope that on this Valentine's Day week, that this is just the boost that you need to, to deal with this week, and to get through. So thank you. I appreciate you guys so much for all of the support, the DMs, everything. Y'all are so awesome. I thank you. I thank you guys for participating in my little polls. I thank you guys for your comments. Thank you for liking. Thank you so much for subscribing. And thank you, I think above all else, for watching. I hope that you guys have an awesome day, and peace. Peace out. Bye.